Okay, so welcome everyone to Grasp a Graph coaches session. My name is Lakshmi Rudraraju. I have been just a little background about me as an analytical people leader at Fort Credit. I have been involved with Science Olympiad uh, since my kids were in elementary. My son is now in college and he completed bachelor's, but I was involved from fourth grade of his science Olympiad till high school. And I've coached Grasp a Graph. I coached other events across, throughout the different science Olympiad phases, which are elementary, middle school, and high school. And now I'm helping with WOSO to run the Grasp a Graph event. Having said that, I will be sharing the rules first. I'll go through the rules and I'll show you a sample test. If you have any questions, either you can type it in the chat or maybe hold it till the end. It won't take as long to go through the rules. So once I go through the rules, I'll give some time for question and answers, and then I'll start sharing the sample test. Okay, so let me quickly. Yeah, are you able to see the rules? If you guys can give me thumbs up.
We can see the rules.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so as you all know, or actually, you know what? Let me ask you guys: is anyone new to Elementary Science Olympiad this year?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So.
Yes.
Okay. So I see few newcomers and few veterans, I would say. Okay, let me go ahead with the rules, and then we'll start with. I'll open up for question and answers. So, Grasp a Graph is basically a math event that tests the knowledge about different types of graphs, right? And as you see here, the students are expected to basically learn about different types of graphs, and they will be tested on pictographs, pie, bar, and line graphs and Venn diagrams, as you see here, right? And the event, the size of the team should be 1 or 2, maximum 2 students. But if you don't have a 2-student team, 1 student can also take the participate in the event. And some rules that they have to follow in terms of when coming to the event, they should be they're only allowed to get the non-programmable calculator, and they can bring rulers, colored pencils, erasers, etc. Whatever is required to basically look at the graph and answer some multiple choice questions, and also they'll have to graph a problem that is given. Okay. And they can whisper. So when you are training the students, just when you have them take the tests, you kind of follow this format, right? Whatever is in the description in terms of rules that they have to follow. If you follow the format with students, it just gets easier when they come into the tournament. So having said that, this event, the test consists of 2 different sections, part 1 and part 2. Within part 1, the students are given a series of graphs and multiple choice on each graph. So they'll have to interpret the graph and then answer the multiple choice questions. And to answer the questions, they will be provided a zip grade score sheet. And that's what they have to use to be able to fill in the correct answer on the zip grade sheet for the correct question. Okay. So that is part 1, and part 2 is where they are given a question, a problem that they have to basically choose a suitable graph for that particular problem, and they have to graph on a graph sheet that will be provided. I will also show you the graph sheet as well, just as an example. And from the scoring point of view, part 1 is 60% and part 2 is 40%. Okay. Just with regards to part 2, they can do a line graph or a bar graph, a double line graph or a double bar graph. right? They're not, they don't have to, they should not be coming up with the pictograph or pie graphs. Usually the problems are given to be suitable for the line and bar graphs. Okay. And then, so from the timing point of view, the test time, the event time is 30 minutes. Having said that, students can come up with a, sorry, someone was saying something? No. Okay. So students can divide and conquer. They can divide the test and, you know, they can answer, right? They can go one student does part 1 and while the other student is doing part 2. And then what else do we have? Yeah, I think that's about it from the event point of view. There are, apart from this, so as part of the scoring, right, there are times where the scores can be tied. That's when we also have the tiebreaker questions that are already part of the question sheet, and they will be marked, right? So that, you know, they can be used as a tie-breaking between the teams.
So from a format standpoint, clarification is that this is a sit-down test. The students are not moving while they're taking the test, like students might see in other events.
Right. Yeah. This is not a stationed format. They will be given a question paper, you know, a set of papers that are stapled, and they are going to have their allotted spots that they come and sit and they start taking the test. So this is from the, you know, the event format point of view, right? But just from the coaching point of view, though, this is obviously, you know, kids will. Students are, they have a lot of fun, basically, right? You know, these are especially the fourth graders, fourth graders are the ones that actually have a lot of fun because they're basically getting into these graphs. And as fifth and sixth graders, right, they are they're a bit well versed with the topic, and, you know, they're competitive and all that. One thing I would say, when you're coaching the students, though, once you cover all the concepts of these graphs that are listed here, you would want to follow the event format that is listed in the rules, so that they get practice and they know what to do when they come into the event. There are many times that we actually see kids not prepared well. You know, I have seen kids not bringing anything into the event where they were expecting everything from the event supervisor, which won't be the case with this event. They are
So
expecting.
your point, Lakshmi, is to, once the kids have a basic understanding of the concepts, they need to then start preparing to compete, which includes being on a time limit.
Yes, that is correct. Timing is another one that I was going to mention, right? To have students, you know, follow these specific, these rules, the highlighted rules, as well as the timing. And that's when they usually, you know, depending on the teams that you are actually forming, they come up with their own strategies to be able to divide and conquer, right? And how they can do the test. Another thing, a very common observation that we have is when they actually use the zip grade form to answer the multiple choice questions, the questions are sequential, right? They can be 1 to 50, let's say, in part 1. They have to make sure to be able to answer at the, you know, the fill the bubble in the zip grade form for that specific question number. What they do is, when they divide the test, they actually usually do the they know the answers, but they actually answer the incorrect question numbers. They fill in the bubbles for incorrect question numbers. So you want to pay attention to that when you're training them too. So those are the two very common things. And the third one, as John was mentioning, timing is very important. 30 minutes, it just flies by, right? They come in and they situate, and then we start the timer and they start to take the test, and it just flies by. So you do want to actually focus on these 3 different things when you're training them. I think that's about it from the rules point of view. If you guys have any questions, I can take those now. And we can, and then we can go from there. If you
Must have done
are
too good of a
speaking,
job here.
I don't know if they're speaking, they're unmute, so you'll have to unmute yourself.
This is Sunil. I have just quick question.
Yeah, sure.
You mentioned answer sheet. So question paper will be different and answer sheet will be different.
Yes, that is correct. So the question, there are, let's say there are set of five or six sheets, right, that are stapled. That is the question paper. And they're also given a zip grade form. John, do we have a sample zip grade form by any chance?
There probably is one that's posted on the Macomb website. And actually, I'm not, so last year, did you use ZipGrade or did you use the other format? Scantron. Do you know which Scantron? Yeah, so it's
Yes.
possible that I don't know the answer as to whether it'll be a Scantron or a ZipGrade this year.
Okay.
But I would recommend that let me look quickly if there is one.
Yeah, I
posted.
have the image of the
Oh.
Scantron that I can flash.
Because reason is I have some sample questions paper I found from the previous course. So that questions and answer on the same sheet. So, but you mentioned while explaining, they need to make sure that they are writing that question number correctly while answering. So that is the reason I need that clarification.
Yes, that is the format is correct. Kids are going to actually use the Scantron or the ZipGrade to answer. So let me quickly share my screen just to show you how that looks like. Share. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes, I'm able to see it.
So do you see the Scantron? So actually, yeah, maybe this is better. Just a conceptual point of view, right? The Scantron or ZipGrade, I'm thinking ZipGrade also may follow the format, but let's just stick to the Scantron. Scantron looks like this, right? There are number of question numbers and then the multiple choice, the options for multiple choice. So what they do is they have to basically fill in the bubble inside, right? When you
by
are
pencil or color pencil, whatever they want, right?
Yeah, then I would suggest to go with the number 2 pencil, the black one, right? Not the colored pencils for Scantron, but they can use actually colored pencils for graphing, which is part 2. But for the Scantrons, though, stick to number 2 pencils. And when you see here, I know this is horizontal, but the concept is that you have question numbers here and you have the options for multiple choice, and then you fill in different bubbles, right? Based on what the correct answer is. This is another thing. There are many kids, I feel bad for them at the end because we try to pay attention and instruct them. If they're not completely bubbling, they cannot circle or they cannot put X, right? They have to bubble.
So you should practice with your teams with this skill, right? This is one of the things that, in addition to the content of the event, learning how to take the test is part of what you should be practicing. And using a form like this, so your kids aren't seeing it for the first time when they get into the test.
Yeah, so they need to fill that, right? B or C, that option, whatever is there, right?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
And also another one is the school name and the team number. They are the key. And there are students that we give instructions about all this as soon before we start the timer, right? But there are cases where we do see students returning the Scantrons without writing their school name and the team number, because that is the key for us in terms of scoring, right? So that is another one you would want to pay attention to when you're training kids.
So
Okay.
Lakshmi,
Do you have sample question paper? So can you share this one? Just what you are sharing on
Yeah,
screen.
I can. Yes.
Lakshmi,
So how?
in this case, name, instead of name, they will write their team name.
Yeah, their school name. We will instruct them that their school and the team name, if there is a name for the team, and there is a number. John, I believe that is correct, right? We do have team numbers.
Yes, and in
Right.
fact, the team number is critical because quite a few schools have more than one team. So it needs to be the combination of both the school
Correct.
name and the team number.
So for example, if our school name is Schroeder, we'll write Schroeder Elementary School hyphen and the team number.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Any
One question, Lakshmi. So in this one, right, there is part 1 and part 2. So if there are 2 students in a team, they will get different answer sheet, or they have to use only one answer sheet?
So in this event, there are two different parts, right? Part one is where there are multiple choice questions. And Scantron is used only for the to answer the multiple choice questions that are part of part one. Part two is where they will be given a graph sheet and a problem, and they have to actually comprehend the problem and then come up with the suitable graph and graph it on the graph sheet. So for part two, there are actually questions too, but we actually have them record on the question paper itself for part two. Part one is strictly, Scantron is used for only part one. Okay. And these are, again, we will actually go through a couple of rounds of repeated instructions in the test as well. So when you are training, thank you, that's actually a good question. Part one is the one that will use the Scantron. Part two has a graph that they have to draw the graph in the graph sheet, plus answer maybe 2 to 3 questions. They could be simple, they could involve some math. But part two is all paper based. Part one is Scantron based.
Thank you
So
for
if they
that.
circle the answers on the test for part one, but don't transfer them to the Scantron, they won't get any score for that, right? Nobody's going to check
Yes,
that
is
they
correct.
transferred their score, their answers. They need to use some of their time to do that.
Yes.
Okay, so they will be able to write on their test in part one. It's not, they have to keep it clean.
They can if they want to, but the expectation from the scoring point of view is Scantron is the only one that is used for part one. We will not be using the question paper, even though they circled, the correct answers.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, like, if they needed to scribble on the test
They're not-
itself.
They're not expected to preserve the test. They will be given their own copy of the test and it'll be discarded at the end of the session.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
But-
you.
They can use the question paper like for the calculation, right?
Yes, they can.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions in this area?
Hi, this is Sushma. Last year, my daughter joined for Whether or Not, and there was like a cheat sheet they are eligible to get, meaning they're allowed to get. Is there something that we can do it for this one as well?
No, there is no cheat sheet for this event.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So let me show you the question paper, right? Sample question paper. So they're given the graphs like this, right?
Could you, Lakshmi, could you change what you're sharing? We're still seeing your we're still seeing the Scantron form.
Okay, let me go back. Let me know when you're able to see.
We can see it now.
Okay. So this is actually a sample test from Macomb WOSO that was put together some time ago, as you see, right? But the format of it is same. Okay, definitely the questions and the graphs are not going to be the same. The concept and the format of the test that your kids are going to get for this season in June is same, where they will be given single or double line graphs, maybe one single and one double line graph. And based on the graph, the data presented in the graph, they will be given multiple choice questions like this. Okay, this is what they are going to. So if I were to be a student, I would read this. And then when I'm answering the first question, I go back to my Scantron. And if, let's say, what day of the week do people drive the fastest, right? It's Monday,
I hope
right?
it's Monday, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is what I would. So I will go back to Scantron and I bubble A within those limits, right? You saw the rectangle, and that rectangle should be completely filled in.
So I have a question about this. You mentioned just a moment ago about the types of graphs that the students might find in this section. And earlier when we were talking about part 2, you commented that pictographs and pie charts were inappropriate for part 2, but
Right.
students could find pictographs or pie charts in part 1. That's
That is
true?
correct. Yes, that
Okay.
is correct.
And here's a good example. Sorry, you're
Sorry,
wonderful.
right. This is a pictograph example, and there is a pie chart right here, right? And then there is a double bar graph, and there could be a double line graph, right? Here you have a single bar graph.
So this particular document is no longer visible on the Macomb site. When we were running this event, it was visible. So I have some documents to send to head coaches for a different event already. So I will include this one
Okay.
in the documents that I send to head coaches. So if people are looking for this document, they should ask their head coach.
Yeah, thank you, John. Actually, that's a very good point that you brought up, because I know in the past, I believe coaches were actually sending notes for this kind of information for different events. So if you're packaging it and as part of the head coach packet, I think that will come in handy for coaches.
Yeah. So sometime in the next day, I'll get to that. And I'll send them to head coaches and ask them to send them on. But if you're an event coach, you ought to be asking your head coach for it.
And also, John, if you want me to send it, I'll send it. If you have it, that's fine.
I do have a copy of that document, so I just looked.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah.
One more question, Lakshmi. Like some of the graphs, the second part, like you can draw bar graph as well as line graph in some of the data what you provided. So how do we decide which one is correct? Like
That will be dependent on the data that we give, that students has to come up with the right answer, right?
yeah, but if the data you can draw the bar as well as the line. So
Right.
if
Yes. So the key here is mostly between single and double. Okay. And there are actually pointers. When you go through the material, right, there are pointers that actually indicate whether a line graph would be more suitable versus bar graph, right? So that is something that I will leave it to the coach to be able to, give that concept to teach that concept to kids.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this example, I want to like this one, the
Yeah.
graph, this temperature one. So here you can also draw the line graph because you see the July 1-8. This is a
Right.
week. So on x-axis you can it's a time, right?
Right.
Week. So
Yes.
in this case, the answer sheet shows the double bar graph. But in my case, like as a data analyst, I see that we can also draw the line graph, double line graph. So yeah.
Right here, right?
Yeah.
In this case, both of them can be the correct answers, right? But when you actually go through, so the key is obviously kids have to come up with which one do they want to draw, and depending on the data, either one could be the correct one, right? But the key here is everything that is in the graph, including the title, right? X-axis, Y-axis, labeling X-axis, Y-axis, labeling the data in the intervals that actually fits the graph sheet. Okay. And obviously legend. If they're using the colors, they should use the, legend. If they're not
Yeah.
using the colors, sometimes I do see people, kids drawing the dots in one versus if they're using just black pencil, right? They use the dots versus solid line or the blank. In that case, they have to basically provide the legend.
Could you scroll up just a little bit so we can see the text above the graph? So here, the graph should look similar to one below. It says the more correct graph is the bar graph in this particular case. So there are criteria about when you use a bar graph versus when you use a line graph. And I think it has to do somewhat with, whether the data is continuous and things like that. So there might be a distinction there. There might not.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, John. Yeah, that is correct. Even though it says here, right? What we try to do is usually, unless it is highly inaccurate, we won't penalize the kids, right? In this case, if they come up with either one of these formats of graphs, we actually go with the details that they provided here, and then we score them. Okay.
So if the same like the details like the x-axis name, y-axis name, or the graph title or the key names, all these are same, but one kid use the bar and one use the line graph. So how do you score them?
It depends on the question, right? So as John said, right, I know you just mentioned that you're a data analyst, right? There is definitely the continuous versus discrete data that could make difference, right? So those are the type of things kids should know when they come in. Maybe there is a point difference or a couple of point difference depending on how they present it, right? One versus the other. But the gist of it are the goal of it is that kids should know which data to represent in what format.
So in this case, they wouldn't get 0 points if they picked a line graph, but they might get a couple less points or something like that.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay. John,
Wonderful.
Is there anything else that you would want to add?
If there are no more questions, you did a great job. I appreciate the time that you took to share this with all the coaches.
Question, Lakshmi, I have one question. So in the question, there is one section where we need to explain the answer in words. So is that still there or that's removed?
That is, no, it's not complete explanation, but that format would still be there more for the calculations.
Because in the past examples, I've seen that they have written that they have given a graph and explain in 1 or 2 sentences why this bar graph's y-axis starts at 80 degrees Fahrenheit instead of 0. So kids need to explain in 1 or 2. So is that still there?
So there is no hard and fast rule of one versus the other, right? But the point is that when they actually learn about the concepts of these graphs, any of either this type of questions or maybe, the addition or a subtraction or a division questions that they should be able to answer based on the graph presented. So don't coach your students in a way that you're limiting them based on the sample test. You would want to coach them on a total, to learn about the graphs as a whole.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Lakshmi. So the previous question papers or sample questions, those will be shared, correct?
Yeah, this one, as John was mentioning, right, he was going to actually send it to your head coaches in a packet.
Okay.
You can actually get them.
And then is there any material that we can refer to prepare kids for this event?
I don't have any specific material, but these are all usually the way I coached was, I actually went with the graph related material, right? That you can actually get it online anywhere these days.
And what are all the resources that we need to carry for this event, like calculator, color pencils, and anything else? I mean, yeah, the black pencil as well.
Go ahead and take a look at the rules. So that is another thing, right? You obviously coach will be familiar with the rules, but student also has to be familiar with the rules. So you start off your event coaching starting with these rules,
Okay.
right? So rules has everything listed here and what they can get. They should get to, right? It's not that they can, there is no option here. What they have to get is listed here.
We can't see your screen right now, Lakshmi, but
Sure. Sorry.
so
Yeah.
it sounds like you're pointing to what's on your screen.
Yeah, sorry. I was, let me quickly do that. I thought I actually shared the whole window. For some reason, it's not.
Lakshmi, are you still there? I think we lost her. So I'm going to go ahead and share a copy of the rules while we're waiting for her to come back. So here's what the rules say. Students may bring or use all of the following: a simple non-programmable calculator, rulers, colored or regular pencils. So those are items that your students would be expected to bring to the session. And they are not allowed to bring other items.
Sorry.
Lakshmi, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Don't know what
Okay,
happened.
good.
I just got disconnected.
Yeah, so I just pulled up a copy of the rules and we just read that first paragraph of what it says that people can bring into the room.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Any other questions?
Thanks for
If
this session.
Go ahead. Rajni, you had a question?
Sorry, I was just thanking you for the session. I'm sorry, I cut John. John,
Yeah.
please go ahead.
Yes.
For the kids to bring their supplies in, is there a limit to like what they're allowed to bring in, like a trapper keeper or like a small bag? Like, does it need to be see-through or anything, or?
It will be good if it is a see-through, or it doesn't have to be, right? You know, it can be a pencil bag that does not have to be a see-through, right? Where you can fit, the main things that we usually see is a small pencil bag with that can carry the color pencils as well. Plus, they will get a ruler that is outside of the, that does not fit in, right? In some of the bags.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Unless you guys have anything else, I'll wish you guys all the best and your students as well. I myself, have enjoyed coaching as well as running the events all these years. I'm sure your kids, your students will enjoy along with you guys too.